Hi guys, how are you doing? Welcome back to ELA. As you know, we've been reading our new book, Harriet Tubman. Everyone should have already listened to the audiobook recording of chapter 3 by now, so make sure that you've already done chapter 3 or you might be a little bit confused about what I'm about to talk about. Okay, so in our book, in chapter 3, Harriet Tubman has just run away to freedom, and some white people helped Harriet on her trip to the north. So right now I'm going to read you a little excerpt from chapter 3, and I want you to listen for the facts about the white people who helped Harriet reach freedom in the north. All right, so listen up. I'm going to read a small part from chapter 3. Harriet didn't have a map of where to go, but she walked at night and followed the North Star. She was smart and she knew about the woods. She also knew that a lot of the rivers went north, so sometimes she could follow a river. Along the way, some white people helped her. In the daytime, they hid her from the slave owners who were chasing her. At night, they fed her and showed her the way to walk. Sometimes they gave her a ride in a boat or a wagon. These white people hated slavery too. They were part of the Underground Railroad that helped the slaves run away. Some of the slaves in those days thought that the Underground Railroad was a real train that ran under the ground to the north, but there was really no train. The Underground Railroad was a name for the people who hid the runaway slaves in their homes and in their barns. Okay, so that's from chapter 3. So you guys should have already listened to that and known that, but this is just a review. So we know that the white people that were a part of the Underground Railroad, they helped by hiding the slaves in the daytime. At night, they would feed them, let them sleep there during the day. They would show them where to go towards the north and how to get to the next house. Sometimes, if they could, they would give them a ride. So that's how they would help, because they hated slavery and they didn't think it was fair either. So the white people who helped Harriet were part of the Underground Railroad. Today we will learn about a secret tunnel. This tunnel was part of the Underground Railroad. Where is the tunnel? Who used it? And where did it go? So now I'm going to read you guys an article called Milton House. I'm going to read it out loud, and that should help us to answer some questions about this secret tunnel. And then you guys will reread on your own and answer the attached questions. Milton House, a station on the Underground Railroad. You are looking at a secret tunnel that was used during the Civil War. Can you guess what it was used for? The tunnel was used to help runaway slaves escape to freedom. Let's take a closer look at how it worked. So this is the tunnel they're talking about. The tunnel was under a hotel called the Milton House. The Milton House was built by a man named Joseph Goodrich. Joseph was an abolitionist. That meant that he was against slavery. Abolitionists were people who hated and wanted to end slavery. He was also part of the Underground Railroad. As you may already know, the Underground Railroad wasn't a real railroad. It didn't have trains or tracks. So remember, it's not a real railroad. That was just the name for it. Underground Railroad was the name for the people who hid runaway slaves. It was also the name for the places where runaway slaves hid. An abolitionist who worked on the Underground Railroad was called a conductor. So the people who helped the slaves, the white people, they were called conductors. Just like on a train, you would have a conductor who runs the train. Real trains have conductors. A hiding place on the Underground Railroad was called a station. Real train stops have stations as well. So stations were places where the slaves would hide. They would call them stations. The Milton House was one stop or station on the Underground Railroad. An abolitionist would lead a runaway slave to a log cabin behind the Milton House. The slave would climb down into the secret tunnel under the cabin. The tunnel led the slaves to a room under the hotel. There they could rest and eat and wait. Soon another abolitionist would lead them to the next station on the Underground Railroad. So they had to have all these secret tunnels and things so that the slaves wouldn't be seen and so that they could hide safely and not be caught. So if we look on the sidebars of the article, it says the Underground Railroad helped more than 100,000 slaves. That's a lot. And right here, this is a picture of part of the Milton House, the hotel. It says part of the Milton House is a hexagon. So part of it is shaped like a hexagon. We learned about hexagons, right? They have 6 sides. The last picture says, today the Milton House is a museum. It is about 170 years old. So the Milton House is a museum so people can see the underground tunnel and how the slaves were helped by abolitionists during that time. All right, so now you guys are going to reread the article on your own and you will answer the questions about the Underground Railroad. All right, good job.